People who buy a house tend to be more reluctant to start a business or change jobs or cities compared to those who rent. This is because by having their own home, they are more tied to that place and it is more difficult for them to make decisions, such as moving for a house, new job, or open a business in another city. In fact, there are studies that show that in the United States, when the number of homeowners increases, unemployment also tends to increase. This happens because by having their own home, people become less willing to move if they lost their job or if better opportunities arise. Elsewhere, the financial crisis loaded home ownership's growth as with wage growth and new restriction on getting mortgage made it much harder for them to buy a home. Although politically are concerned that fewer and fewer people own their homes, more people's renting might not be as negative it is believed. There is a belief in many countries that it is better to own a home than to rent because it is thought that it helps create a more stable society. However, the evidence supporting these ideas is very limited. For example, Singapore is a very stable country where almost 90% of the population owns their home and occupies a prominent place in the UN Human Development Index, but Romania, which has an even higher rate of home ownership, is much lower in terms of development. This suggests that there is no clear relationship between home ownership and the stability or development of a country. In Switzerland, for example, only 42% of people own their home, but it is still most developed country in the world. In addition, Switzerland has allowed that credit protect tenants. Rental contracts can last up to 20 years and the prices are also very stable if interest rates fall. That is, the cost that banks charge for lending money. Tenants have the right to request that the rental price be lowered, causing the value of the rent to also decrease over time. This can be achieved of a simple way by following the legal steps such as writing a letter to the owner. However, in other countries tend to do not feel so safe. Many people see rent as wanting money because they believe they are paying for something that will never be theirs. This is a common argument against renting. However, since 2022, the monthly cost of a rental in the United States is less than that of mortgage, which means that renting is not always the worst option. To better understand the difference, you must consider all the expenses that come with owning a house. Over time, when you buy a house, you not only pay the mortgage, but also the interest on that loan that can go up or down depending on market conditions. In addition, being an owner involves other expenses that are not so obvious, things like houses insurance, maintenance. This is an argument that may arise in the cost of the purchase itself, such as commissions if purchased through a real estate agent. So authorizing something seems more expensive at first glance. Owning a house also has many costs that are not seen and so easily. Once all expenses associated with purchases a home are considered, sometimes renting may be a more convenient option, and in other cases owning may be more beneficial or are dependent on key factors such as interest rate and the state of the property. Economy at that time, the good things are that also both renting and buying. They can end up being approximately the same. In the end, if you buy a house, you have that asset, so economically it can bear the bad things in that being tied to a place can make you lose financial opportunities that could make you earn much more money, especially if you are a person who always seeks to go further in life and you are not afraid to risk trying things. The decision about what is better does not have a clear answer and depends a lot on the personal preference of each individual. There is not one option that is objectively superior to the other. Although many people think that's bad and always better, the idea that investing in bricks and mortar, that is, in properties, is always effective. Although many people think that's bad and always better, the idea that investing in bricks and mortar, that is, in properties, is always effective, but it is not entirely true. Since the 70s, many people have seen how the price of their houses are rising a lot. This has allowed those who bought homes at that time to make quite a bit of money if they decide to sell them today. But those who bought properties in the United States at the peak of the housing bubble suffered large losses when the market collapsed in 2008, although there is a risk that the value of houses does not always rise. The government of rich countries continue to promote the purchases of homes. They do so through policies such as the deduction of mortgage interest. This means that the government gives a tax benefits to home owners, allowing them to reduce the amount of taxes they owe. They must pay by subtracting that they have paid interest on their mortgage. For example, if they paid $5,000 of interest in a year, they can deduct that amount from the rent payment. The cost of this policy has been increased continuously since 2008, and it is estimated that it will cost the Treasury approximately $1,000 million per year by 2030. Only taxes that do not receive that revenue could be used for other purposes such as improving education, transportation, or healthcare, but instead go to promoting home ownership. However, the actual impact of this policy is minimal since it does not necessarily make more people can buy a house. A good example of how ineffective these policies can be is the British Help to Buy initiative, which the government intended to help people buy their first home in London. The government policy was intended to help people buy their first home by giving them a subsidy. That is, financial aid. The idea was that with this help, more people could afford to buy a home. However, this policy did not work as expected because although more people had money to buy, not enough new homes were built to satisfy the growing demand. As there were many people looking to buy, but there were not enough houses. The prices ultimately raised the subsidy that was given to people to help them by turning out to be useless because prices rose so much that the help was not enough. To make up the difference of making it easier to buy homes, the policy contributed to price increasing even more by making houses were even more difficult to reach for those who wanted to buy them. The argument that governments must continue to spend large amounts of money to encourage home buying.